At my daughter's 8th birthday, my mom yelled, "Your sister needs help." I calmly responded, "Her debt isn't my daughter's problem." My mother stunned. Sophie was turning 8 years old, the age when you're still young enough to believe your parents know everything, but old enough to realize they don't. She requested a princess-themed party, so my ex-wife and I spent the majority of Saturday afternoon hanging pink streamers from every available surface and convincing 10 8-year-old girls that this was the most amazing event of their lives. It worked mostly. There was cake. There were pizzas. There were youngsters racing about the backyard as if they'd injected sugar right into their veins. Everything was commotion, yelling, and the type of delight seen only at children's celebrations. My mother came at 2 o'clock, which was her usual time. Arrive after the tough lifting is completed, but early enough to participate in the cake portion. She was carrying a package wrapped in paper that appeared to have been stapled. Her energy was the type of manic that generally indicated she was ready to do something my therapist would have advised me to prepare for. "There's my princess," she exclaimed, swooping down on Sophie with such fervor that my 7-year-old took a little step back. She hugged my kid as if she were gathering her for a hostage scenario, then instantly began searching around the party for entertainment options. My ex-wife Rachel drew my attention across the deck. We had been divorced for 2 years, yet we had a unique co-parenting language that could be spoken with a single glance. "Your mom is about to do something." I was correct. About 20 minutes into the party, my mother slapped her hands together loudly, like adults do when they want youngsters to stop having fun and focus on them instead. "Everyone," she said, her voice piercing through the commotion like a knife through birthday cake. "I have an announcement." The students came to a halt. Adults froze in the middle of their conversations. There's something about the tone someone employs when they're ready to say something important, and my mother had hit it brilliantly. "I wanted to say something in front of all of you," she said, gazing straight at me. "Because this is a family matter, and I believe in honesty, even hard honesty." Rachel's fingers touched my arm. Physically, it's a warning, a comfort, and a buckle up. "Your Uncle Matthew's sister, my daughter Claire," my mother added, indicating vaguely at individuals who weren't there, "is having financial troubles. She's made some errors, but she's family, and family helps each other." I could see where this was heading. "So I've chosen to utilize Sophie's college savings to assist her get out of debt. It's the correct thing to do. Your relative needs assistance more than she does college prep." Rachel's hand tightened on my arm. One of the other parents was looking at their phone, probably wondering if they should leave, and the kids were confused. They'd been 8 and younger, and their brains couldn't process that an adult had just announced they were stealing from a child in front of witnesses. I sat down with my beer. "What do you mean?" I remarked quietly, my voice striking through the silence like a special type of weapon. "The account I closed last month." My mother's expression shifted from confident to perplexed, to protective in approximately 2 seconds. "What?" she said. "The college savings account," I repeated for Sophie, remaining calm and quiet enough for only close adults to hear. "The one I closed last month after transferring all monies to her trust account at the brokerage business. The one with my and her names, not yours." My mother's expression shifted, and her assurance cracked like thin ice. "I don't," she said. "You don't have access to it," I explained. "Because you were never intended to. Sophie's account was set up and managed by me. I blocked your access roughly 28 days ago when I noticed you'd been hinting about rearranging family finances. You cannot just," my mother started. "I've already done that," I said. "So, I'm not sure which account you were planning to raid, but it wasn't that one." My mother took out her phone, and I watched her open her banking app, look for the account number she seemed to have memorized, and realize I was speaking the truth. "What have you done?" she yelled, her voice growing louder. "My job as a parent," I explained, "includes protecting my daughter's future from people who believe they have the right to make financial decisions for her." "That's her education," my mother remarked. Her voice rose as if it were a volume dial. Someone was aggressively showing up. "That's her future." That's my daughter," I continued, maintaining the same tone, "and I make decisions about her future, not you. Not because I don't trust you with money, though we can certainly talk about that, but because she's my child, and I'm her father. And that's literally my job." My mother began shouting, but not in John's voice. Not speaking strongly, yelling, the type that rings out across a backyard full of 8-year-old girls and their parents. "You're being selfish," she yelled. "Your sister needs help, and you're being selfish. This is about your want to control everything. This is about you being ungrateful for all the assistance I've provided." Sophie's face became white. I saw the other kids stop playing and start gazing. Rachel stood up, ready to interfere if the situation progressed. And I remained calm. "I think this conversation needs to happen somewhere else," I replied, referring to the children who are currently seeing their grandma have a full meltdown at their celebration. "I'm not leaving," my mother said. "I came to celebrate my granddaughter and to be honest with this family about what's happening with your sister. That's not wrong. That's not—" "You're right," I said. "You came for those things, but you also came with the idea that you could make a financial choice for my daughter in front of her friends, and I would just accept because you are the adult in the room. And that anticipation is the issue." My mother opened her lips to answer, then closed it before opening it again. She did it 3 times, like a fish desperately attempting to get oxygen from dry soil. "You're making a scene," she eventually remarked, her voice softer but furious, which made matters worse. "No," I said. "You made a scene. I'm just standing here. I'm just being honest about a decision I made months ago to protect my daughter's future from being sacrificed to someone else's bad financial choices." "Your sister made one mistake," my mother explained. "Your daughter made one mistake." I made a correction. Sophie's kid made no mistakes, and her college savings should not cover the cost of her aunt's learning experience. My mother departed around 9 minutes later. She did not say goodbye. She merely walked to her car, got in, and drove away while on the phone, most likely contacting my sister Claire to explain why the plan had failed. Rachel led Sophie inside to get away from the wreckage. The other parents gradually began to pull their children back into party mode, albeit the vibe was noticeably different. The wonderful bubble had popped. The notion that grown-ups had it all figured out had been broken in front of a group of 8-year-olds. I remained on the deck, sipping my beer and trying to understand what had just transpired. In front of witnesses, my mother attempted to seize my daughter's college savings and reroute them to my sister's debts. And when she learned she couldn't do it since I'd already safeguarded the account, she scolded me for being selfish. The turnaround was so great that it was nearly overwhelming. That evening, once the party was ended and the kids had gone to bed, Rachel and I sat on the back porch with wine instead of beer. "You knew she was going to do that," Rachel remarked without doubt. "I suspected," I stated. "She's been making comments for the past 5 months about how Claire needs help, about how family should sacrifice for family, about how Sophie has her whole life ahead of her. But Claire only has this moment." "So you set a trap," Rachel remarked. "I protected my daughter," I said. "If you want to call that a trap, sure. I'm not criticizing." Rachel responded. "I'm just observing that you saw this coming and you prepared for it." "Of course, I prepared for it," I said. "This is my mother. I understand how she thinks. I know she loves my sister more than she appreciates my parental authority, and I know that if given the chance, she would steal my daughter's college money to fix someone else's problem." "The question is," Rachel asked cautiously, "what happens now?" That was the true question, right? My mother had just openly attempted to take from my kid. She shouted at me in front of witnesses for not allowing her to do it. And she was undoubtedly attempting to find out how to persuade me that I had been mistaken. My phone vibrated. I received an SMS from my mother. "We need to talk about this. You can't just unilaterally decide about family finances." I wasn't interested. Another text. "Your sister is suffering. How can you be so cruel?" Another. "Sophie needs to know that family takes care of each other." One more. "I'm calling Dad. You're being unreasonable." I silenced the alerts and placed the phone down. "She's spiraling," Rachel said. "She is," I answered. "And I don't have any responsibility to unspiral her even though she's your mother." "Especially because she's my mother," I told her. "Because if I let her dictate how I manage my daughter's money based on guilt or obligation, then I'm teaching Sophie that other people's needs come before her own security. And I'm teaching her that manipulation is an acceptable way to solve problems." Rachel nodded slowly. "You've thought about this a lot," she added. "I have," I explained, "since this is not new. This is the first time she attempted to take action rather than merely guilt-tripping me about it." My phone vibrated again, my father this time. "Your mother says you're being selfish about Sophie's college fund." "What's going on?" I called him rather than messaging. "Hi Dad," I said. "What's this about the college fund?" he inquired. I detailed the facts, including the account deletion, party notice, and the backup plan I put in place for just this type of event. My father remained quiet for a long time. "Good," he eventually said. "Good," I said. "You did the right thing," he said. "Your mother means well, but she's never understood boundaries. Sophie requires you to maintain those limits." "Mom's upset with me," I said. "Of course she is," my father said. "But she'll get over it. And you'll sleep better at night knowing your daughter's future is protected." He was correct. I'd sleep better. I was already sleeping better knowing that my mother couldn't access that account even if she tried. My mother did not call me for 2 days following the birthday celebration. Instead, she phoned everyone else. My father received a version in which I was a selfish youngster who did not comprehend family devotion. My sister Claire received a version in which I attempted to wreck her life by refusing to assist her during a moment of need. My brother received a version in which I was power tripping due to the divorce. My cousins allegedly received a version in which I was keeping score and being vengeful about previous family problems. The only genuine version, that I had taken a financial decision with my own daughter's money to save it from being misdirected to fix someone else's problem, was strangely the least convincing tale. By day 3, a family group chat that had been quiet for months had suddenly exploded. My aunt, Elizabeth. "I heard what happened at Sophie's party. That's not how we do things in this family." My cousin, Andrew. "Pretty harsh to embarrass your mother like that in front of other people." My uncle James. "Your mom was trying to help someone. You could have handled it privately." Nobody was questioning why my mother felt entitled to my daughter's money. No one was asking if it was right for her to make a financial choice for my child without contacting me. They were just accepting the assumption that I had done something wrong by declining. I did not react to any of them. On day 4, my mother called. "We need to talk," she remarked, her voice seeming both calm and enraged. "Okay," I responded. "Not over the phone," she said. "In person this weekend you're going to come to the house and we're going to have a real conversation about how you've been treating me." I wanted to ask what I had done that needed to be handled differently, but I knew how that conversation would go. She would make a list of grievances. She'd rant about how ungrateful I was. She would bring up moments when I had disappointed her. She would say this about my character rather than about the precise decision I had taken. "What time?" I inquired. "Sunday. 2 o'clock, she answered. "And don't bring any excuses." Sunday at 2 p.m., I was sitting in my mother's living room, drinking coffee I didn't want and feeling the dread that comes with knowing you're going to be scolded by someone who refuses to listen. My mom sat across from me. My father carefully sat on the sofa in what I knew as the neutral territory stance. He attracted my attention for a second. I could see sympathy there. He knew what was coming. "I want to understand," my mother began. "What I did that was so terrible that you felt the need to humiliate me in front of a room full of people. You announced you were going to use my daughter's college savings without asking me," I remarked quietly. "That's what happened. I was trying to help my daughter," she explained. "I was trying to be a good mother and a good sister. I was trying to show that family comes first. But you did it by making a decision about my daughter's money," he responded. "Without consulting me, without asking me if I agreed. You just announced it like it was a done deal because I knew you'd say no." My mother said, and there it was. The admission that she knew what she was doing was wrong but chose to do it nonetheless. "Right," I replied. "You knew I'd say no because taking your granddaughter's college fund to pay for your daughter's debt is not a reasonable request. So instead of making the request, you just announced the decision and hoped I wouldn't object. That's not fair." My mother answered, "I was trying to assist Claire. She is hurting. She committed errors, but she remains family." "I'm not disagreeing with that," I responded. "Claire's family, and if you want to help her, that's your decision. But you support her with your own money, not Sophie's college fund." "It's not just mine," my mother explained. "It's a family issue. Your daughter will benefit from this family and the way we care for one another." I responded, "I take care of her, but it doesn't mean she owes her college money to individuals who made poor financial choices." My mom stood up. "You're heartless," she stated. "You've always been heartless. Even as a child, you never understood the importance of family sacrifice." "I understand it fine," I responded, remaining sitting. "I recognize that sacrifice should not come from an 8-year-old's education fund. I recognize Claire is an adult, and Sophie is not responsible for her financial troubles." "Your sister is drowning in debt," my mother remarked, her voice rising. "Drowning," And you won't even help. I will help, I responded. I can give you money. I can help her work through a budget. I can connect her with a financial advisor, but what I won't do is let you raid my daughter's future to solve an adult's financial crisis. That's not helping. My mother remarked. That is sanctimonious. No, I replied. That is being a parent. That is safeguarding my child's interests, rather than giving them up to make someone else's life easier. My dad cleared his throat. I think what your mother is struggling with, he continued quietly, is that you made this decision unilaterally without discussing it with anyone. I discussed it with my therapist, I replied. And with Rachel. I discussed it with myself. I terminated the account in my name using the money I had donated for my daughter's benefit. What did I need to address with my mother? You might have come to us, my mother continued. Or asked. You could have trusted us to make the correct decision. Based on what? I asked. Based on the fact that you attempted to make a significant financial choice about my daughter without consulting me? That doesn't appear to be proof that I should trust you with her money. My mother sat down again. I don't know who you've become, she murmured gently. I don't recognize you anymore. I've become someone who defends his daughter, I replied. And someone who establishes limits. I've evolved into someone who does not allow guilt to influence his parenting decisions. Perhaps you don't know that guy, but he is a greater father than I was before. We sat silently for a time. Claire phoned me. My mother said finally. She felt embarrassed. She learned about what you did from her pals at the party. I'm sorry she was humiliated, I answered sincerely. But that's not my responsibility to manage. What's my responsibility is protecting my daughter and making sound financial decisions about her future. Even if it means you lose your relationship with your mother? My mother inquired. That was the threat, right? If you don't do what I want, I'll make you choose between being a good parent and having a mother. If you're saying I have to choose between protecting Sophie and keeping your approval, my reply was, then I'm choosing Sophie every time without question for the rest of my life. My mother's face collapsed somewhat. That's not what I'm saying, she said. But it was. It absolutely was. Yes, it is, I answered softly. And I see why. You feel as if I deceived you. You believe I prioritized my daughter above you, which is true. I did. I will. I will always put my kid above your sentiments. It's selfish, my mother said. Maybe, I said. But it's also good parenting. And I'm okay with you thinking I'm selfish if it means Sophie grows up knowing her father protected her when he needed to. I left my parents' house an hour later, and my mother did not hug me goodbye, nor did she say she loved me. She just remarked, I hope you know what you're doing. She said in a tone that suggested she hoped I didn't. My father escorted me to the door. You did the right thing, he said calmly. Don't let her make you doubt that. I won't, I said. But it would be easier if she could just accept it without trying to make it my fault. She will eventually, he explained, but not today. Today. She's still mad because you didn't let her control the story. 2 weeks later, my sister Claire called, and I almost didn't answer. Hi, she murmured, her voice unsure in a manner I hadn't heard before. Hi, I said. I wanted to call earlier, she said, but I was embarrassed and angry. I guess I was hoping Mom could persuade you to reconsider your mind. She tried, I explained. I know, Claire responded. She called me 6 times a day for a week, telling me all the reasons you were being unreasonable. And now, I asked. I'm phoning because I've been in treatment, Claire responded. And my therapist helped me understand that Mom using my financial irresponsibility as leverage to take money from my niece is not great for anyone. I felt a change in my chest. I had to declare bankruptcy, Claire explained. It was terrible and embarrassing, and I despised it. But it also taught me that my debt is my responsibility, not Mom's or yours. I'm sorry you went through that, I added, and I meant it. I'm sorry I let Mom turn this into a family crisis. Rachel corrected herself. I should have told her no. I should have said I got myself into this. I'll get myself out. But it was simpler to let Mom be upset with you than to take responsibility for myself. You're being responsible now, I told you. That's what matters. Can Sophie still come to my birthday next month? Rachel inquired. Or am I on the permanent list? I laughed. Actually laughed. Sophie can come, I said. But you're still a little bit on the list. Fair, Rachel said. I'll work my way off it. My mother is still upset with me, by the way. She has been angry for 5 months now. She still discusses the birthday celebration as if it were a personal betrayal. She still complains about how I handled it poorly and how I should have approached her privately, but she no longer tries to take Sophie's money. She does not reveal her intentions to steal her college fund. She has learnt through hard experience that there are some boundaries I will not cross. Sophie still adores her grandmother, visits her on Saturdays, and phones her to discuss school, books and other topics of interest to 8-year-olds, but she is also aware that her grandmother attempted to take something that belonged to her and that her father intervened. I believe that is the true lesson. Not that family or borders are vital, but that doing the right thing might cost you something. And doing it anyhow, even if it's difficult, is what really counts. 3 months after the family gathering, my mother turned up to Sophie's school, but not to take her up. Not for any valid cause. She emerged in the parking lot while I was waiting for Sophie to come out. "We need to talk," she stated via the vehicle window. "Okay," I said, sliding it down. "But not here. Not at Sophie's school." "Then when?" she challenged. "You avoid my calls. You avoid my messages. You won't come to family dinners because every time I do, the conversation turns into you trying to convince me I was wrong about the college fund." I replied. "Because you were wrong," she stated frankly. "You made a unilateral decision about family finances, and you won't even apologize. It wasn't a family decision." I responded. "It was my decision about my daughter's money." "Those are different things." "You know what your problem is," my mother continued, her tone becoming sharper. "You believe you're really smart. You believe you're right, but you're actually alienated and furious, and you're punishing this family for not supporting your fantasies." "My delusions got a $3 million book deal and made the New York Times bestseller list," I remarked with no apology. "Wait, that was the other man. He's the divorced author from the book tour, not me. I'm the man who protects his daughter's college money, and I think it's working out rather well." "This isn't about your success," my mother remarked. "This is about the fact that you've become someone cold and distant. You've become someone who doesn't value family." "I value family," I explained. "I just don't value being manipulated by family. Those are different things." Sophie got out of school. When she noticed my mother's automobile, her entire body tightened. "Hi, Grandma," she said, settling into the passenger seat with a tiredness that an 8-year-old shouldn't have. "Hi, sweetheart," my mother responded, her tone quickly changing to honey sweet. "I was just talking to your father about some things." "What things?" Sophie said, glancing at me. "Nothing important," I said. "Sophie, we need to go." "Wait," my mother said. "Sophie, I want you to know that I love you very much, and I want you to know that your father and I disagreed about something, but that doesn't mean your grandmother doesn't care about you." "Mom," I replied, my voice threatening. "I'm talking to my granddaughter," she said abruptly. "Sophie, sometimes adults make choices that are hurtful, and your father made a choice that hurt me. But I want you to know that I'm trying to understand why he thinks he was right." "He was right," Sophie remarked, "and I've never been more proud of an 8-year-old in my life. He's my dad. That money was for me. He gets to decide about my money." My mother's face became frigid. I replied, starting the car. "We're done here." That night, I scheduled a family gathering. Not the actual one. Everyone is on a Zoom call. My father, mother, sister, and brother. "I'm calling this to set some boundaries," I blurted out. "And I'm doing it in front of all of you so there's no confusion about what I mean. This is ridiculous." My mother started. "Let me finish," I said. "I've tried being reasonable. I've tried explaining my decisions. I've tried having conversations about why I did what I did, but none of that's working because you all keep expecting me to change my mind." "We don't expect you to change your mind," my father said. "We just think you showed up at my daughter's school," I said, gazing straight at my mother. "You tried to use Sophie as a mediator in our conflict. You told her that I hurt you by protecting her own money. That crosses a line." My mother began to object. "I'm not finished," I said. "Here's what's going to happen. First, you're going to stop bringing this up. The birthday party happened. The decision was made. We move forward from here. Second, you're going to stop trying to convince me I was wrong. I wasn't. I'm not. I won't. Third, you're going to cease using my connection with Sophie as leverage." "I would never," my mother began. "You literally just did," I told her today at school. "Here's my boundary. If you include Sophie in this fight again, I'm going to take a vacation from having you in our life. Not forever, but long enough that everyone knows that my kid is not a bargaining chip." You can't threaten me with my granddaughter, my mother said. I'm not threatening you, I explained. I'm telling you what the consequence is if you keep crossing this line. That's not a threat. That's a boundary. Claire unexpectedly spoke out. I think Dad's right, she said. Mom, you need to let this go. You made a choice about Sophie's money without asking Dad. He protected the account. That's done. Now you need to accept it and move on. I'm not taking parenting advice from someone who declared bankruptcy, my mother said. Good, Claire remarked. Because I'm not giving it. I'm just observing that you're making everything worse by not accepting a decision that's already made. My brother remained quiet. My father nodded slowly. I support the boundaries, my father responded. And if you keep pushing, I'll be backing your son up on taking space. My mother peered around the Zoom, as if she couldn't believe she was being targeted. Fine, she eventually said. Fine, I'll stop bringing it up. But I don't accept that you were right about any of this. You don't have to accept it, I told you. You just have to stop trying to change it. The following 3 months were peaceful. My mother did not call. She did not text. She just wasn't present. Sophie inquired about her several times. I informed her that Grandma was taking some time to think about things. Then, during month 4, my mother called. I want to see Sophie, she explained. Okay, I responded. When? This Saturday. Just the two of us. I want to take her to lunch. I'm going to need to ask Sophie if she wants to go, I told her. Why wouldn't she want to? My mother inquired. Because you tried to use her as a mediator in our conflict, that was my reply. So she might be uncomfortable. We're going to let her choose. When I asked Sophie if she wanted to go to lunch with her grandma, she hesitated. Is Grandma mad at me? She inquired. No, I said. But Grandma and I had a disagreement, and Grandma said some things that weren't very nice. I think she wants to talk to you about it. Does she want to apologize? Sophie inquired. I think so, I answered. But I'm not sure. That's why I want you to choose if you want to go. Sophie contemplated it for a long time. I'll go, she eventually said. But I want you to know that if she tries to make me feel bad about what you did, I'm going to tell her she's being weird. I laughed. That seems fair. I took Sophie up from lunch an hour and a half later. She got into the car, and I inquired. How was it? Weird, she said. Grandma apologized. She said she was sorry for trying to take my college money. She said she was scared about Aunt Claire and she wasn't thinking clearly. How did that feel? I inquired. Better, Sophie said. She also gave me a new book and she said she wanted me to know that she loves me, even when she and Dad disagree about things. I felt something settle in my chest. That was nice of her, I commented. She also said something weird, Sophie went on. She said that you were right, that you're a good father for protecting me. She said that, I inquired, attempting to keep my tone calm. She said she didn't like admitting it, Sophie said. But that she's been thinking about what I said about how the money was for me and you get to decide about my money. She said that made sense. I reached across to squeeze Sophie's hand. I'm proud of you, I said, for standing up for yourself. I learned it from you, Sophie said simply. That night, my mother called me. I owe you an apology, she replied without explanation. Okay, I said, unsure where this was headed. I was wrong, she explained. Not about wanting to help Claire. I stand by that. But about trying to make it your problem. About trying to take from Sophie. About involving her in our conflict. I was wrong about all of that. Thank you for saying that, I said. I'm also wrong about something else. She proceeded. I've been angry at you for being independent and strong and unwilling to let people manipulate you. But those aren't bad things. Those are things I should be proud of. Things I raised you to be, whether I realized it or not. I did not say anything. I just listened. I'm sorry, she said. Not because I want to solve things quickly, but because I finally understand what you were doing. You were the father you needed to be, and I was the mother who didn't know how to accept it. I accept your apology, I said. I'd like to do better, she explained. Going forward, I'd like to try. I'd like that too, I responded. We hung up after that. Not everything has been settled, but there is some understanding. Sophie's 10th birthday rolled along, and this time my mother called to see what she might give rather than simply announcing what she was taking. I'd like to help with the party, she explained. If that's okay with you. That's okay, I responded. What did you have in mind? Whatever you think is appropriate, she said. I don't want to overstep. That comment, I don't want to overstep, was maybe the most encouraging thing I'd ever heard from my mother. She brought a cake, not the main cake, but a treat that she had cooked herself. She arrived an hour before the party began and asked if I needed assistance with anything. She stayed at the party and played games with the kids rather than attempting to be the focus of attention. When it was time to depart, she hugged Sophie and said she'd see her next week for their regular lunch rendezvous. There was no drama, no manipulation, no financial announcements, just a grandma being a grandmother. My sister Claire was also there. She had been clean for 14 months. She worked as a financial consultant, assisting others in avoiding the same mistakes she had made. She handed Sophie a gift card and a message that said, "To my smart niece, who reminds me that consequences teach us things." My brother and I genuinely chatted about work, our kids, and other typical topics that brothers discuss when they are not involved in family strife. My father called me aside at one time. "I'm proud of you," he stated, "for sticking to your boundaries, for not letting guilt change your mind. That takes strength." "I learned it from you," I explained. He grinned. "I'm not sure I deserve credit for that, but I'll take it." The college fund is still there and increasing slowly. Sophie is aware of the situation now. She is aware that when someone attempted to steal it, her father safeguarded it. Understands that sometimes loving your family requires saying no to them. That's probably the most significant thing she's learned. Not that family is always right, but that defending yourself and those you care about is not selfish. It is necessary. My mother and I still have our differences. She still believes I should be more forgiving about things. I still believe she should be more respectful of limits, but we discovered a medium ground in which we may both be correct about certain things, and incorrect about others. I believe that is the definition of family. People who know you and stay despite the lack of perfect harmony or full approbation. People who can acknowledge when they're incorrect. People who can say "I'm sorry" with genuine emotion. People who can learn. My mother has learned a lot over the past year, regarding what it means to appreciate someone's parenting. About what it means to set and accept boundaries. Instead of attempting to be the center of your adult child's life, consider what it means to be a grandma. And I've learned that forgiving does not imply forgetting. It entails deciding to continue forward even when something hurts. Sophie's college fund is held in an account that only I have access to. It will be ready for her when she turns 18. And it will exist because on her 8th birthday, I said no to someone I adored. That no protects more than simply money. It safeguarded Sophie's right to know that her father would prioritize her safety over family unity. It kept her from learning that manipulation is okay when it comes from someone you should trust. Most significantly, it safeguarded her from a future in which she learned to prioritize other people's issues above her own. Last week my mother texted me a picture. It was from Sophie's school, and I had attended a father-daughter event there. My mother had evidently acquired the photo from another parent. Sophie is holding my hand in this shot. She looks up at me as if I've hung the moon. I stare down at her as if she were the most important thing in the world. My mother's text stated, "This is what I see today, and this is what I was attempting to safeguard by giving you her money. Not the money, but you as her parent. I apologize for taking so long to realize you were already doing this." I did not answer with words. I merely sent her message with a heart emoji because sometimes that's enough. Sometimes all you need is a heartfelt message. I forgive and understand you, and we'll be okay all at once. The college money is still rising. Sophie is still protected. My mother is still learning. My family remains confusing. But we are better today. Not perfect, but better. And as I've discovered, better is often all you can ask for.